Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Watches with Dennis, and we've got quite a treat. We're going to do a first for me. I don't think I have ever done a 3-watch collection. I don't remember the last time I was limited to 3 watches. It was quite a while ago, so I don't ever really think in those parameters, but they're all the hotness with all the real channels, and so I thought, you know what, let's do it as a live stream. Let's bring in some guests, and we're going to let people vote because YouTube will let you have 4 people vote, so we have just enough to be able to do that. Again, if you've never seen the stream before, my name is Dennis. I host Watches with Dennis. You know, it's super creative and clever name. And I'm going to actually ask each of you to introduce yourselves. And if you're wearing a watch, what watch you're wearing. I guess mine is the Omega Seamaster 300, the gray dial version today. And let me kick it off to the newbie. Not new to live streaming, but new to my live stream. And that would be Patrick with Pocket Watch Time. Welcome, Patrick.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me on, Dennis. I have a YouTube channel, which is both on watches and pocket watches, called Pocket Watch Time, and I'm located in sunny Florida. I live where everyone else vacations, and today I'm wearing the watch that I'm reviewing tomorrow, and that's my Tissot PRX, but this is the loomed dial version that they just dropped. And,
okay. I've seen some images of that.
As a weirdo collector, I like weird things. And the minute it came up and said it was going to be at least a somewhat limited run, I said, all right, that's the one for me then. And I've been a little bit deficient in my editing today. So when we get off of this, I'm going to be up all night getting ready to put my Saturday upload up.
Oh, so I've basically ruined your plan for editing.
Pretty much.
Okay. Well, I do accept culpability. And yeah, this is the first time Patrick and I have interacted. I've seen him a number of times on the Casual Watch Talk live streams, and I've liked your contrarian approach. And so I thought this is a person to invite on because he doesn't have a problem saying an opinion that's going to run counter to most of the watch community has.
Nice to be on here.
Yeah. So welcome. And I had a PRX, and unlike you, I took the most boring blue quartz model there was. So very, very different approach. Ken, this is your second time on.
Yeah, second time on. I'm not a YouTuber yet, but ever since I joined your stream, Dennis, I've gotten on a couple of other streams, and I like it a lot. I mean, I'm just talking watches all day anyway, offline. Why not just do it online with like-minded people? And then the greatest thing about it is that I get to meet a lot of great people, share a lot of interests, and I find that even though we share interests about watches, the more I talk to them, we share a bunch of other interests. So it's just great meeting everyone. And I'm having a great time doing streaming.
Excellent. You wearing anything?
Oh yeah, Tudor, Black Bay, Blue, ETA.
Yes,
ETA version. Yeah,
nice.
And I checked out the yesterday. I checked out the new 41 diver. I have to admit, it's pretty nice.
Oh, the burgundy bezel one.
Yes, it's actually pretty. It's actually thinner than this ETA version. So I'm like, fuck. Fuck. What do I do now? Do I have to upgrade? It's actually a little bit thinner, and when you look at it side by side, it's actually a little bit smaller, the diameter too. So they got the size really. They really improved the size this time. For those that don't already have a Tudor.
All right. And Tony, you've been on a lot of these.
I've been on a bunch of these. Yeah. I co-host the Eclectic Gamers podcast. If you've watched any of these before, you've seen me. I don't have anything new really going on other than I apologize in advance if I start coughing. I'll mute myself. I'm getting over something that's been just destroying me for a week now. But I'm wearing my Bull of a Hack. I know I've worn it a couple other times. You can't really tell.
My light's too bright. Get the AR coating. Get that AR coating out.
There we go. So it's just standard Bull of a Hack. Nothing fancy to it, but it's a nice everyday wear watch.
And I should confess, well, in the opening, I made it sound very much like, three watch collections and how I've been like mulling this over for a long time. This game was actually Tony's suggestion. He's like, you know what? Wouldn't it be cool if we did this as a live stream? And I thought about doing some like as a pre-record. And I was like, well, I guess if I do all the overlay stuff and get it together and people, yeah, maybe we could do that. So that's what we're going to try.
All right.
So for those not familiar, yeah, I'm sure it'll work great. No, we'll fix it in post. If it doesn't work, we'll fix it in post. So So for those that are watching live, I'm going to have voting options up in the chat, so you can pick which collection you like the most. We're going to do 3 categories. We're going to do a $1,000 total budget, a $10,000, and a $30,000. Everyone's already gotten me their build outs for that, and they've had their graphics to be able to review to make sure I pick the correct watches and everything. And the way we did it is you could pick any realistic price that you could find. So if you wanted to list the retail price of a Rolex because it's less than a used price, you could do that. If you wanted to go on Chrono 24 and find the lowest price of a watch, you didn't have to include tax, you didn't have to include shipping. So it can be used. That's okay. And other than that, the categories were a dress watch, a sports watch, and then a wild card watch, which could be anything you wanted. So pretty basic. We'll go ahead and we'll kind of go in alphabetical order, because then I could just click the rotation. So it'll start with me, and then it'll do Ken, then Patrick, and then Tony. Let me go ahead and get the community poll going, and let me get that screen share up so you can see mine. And here you go. Okay. So for my $1,000 category, I went fairly traditional other than the dress watch. So for the dress watch, I was searching around because I had about half my budget available, and I was like, because I knew I wanted to do the Seiko for the sport. I was like, I'm going to do a Seiko diver. I want to give someone a mechanical watch for the dive watch. So I went with the SRP 773K1. That's a $400 watch on Chrono. That was on Chrono 24, I think. So that's what you can find those for. Turtle shape style. I like the turtles as divers from Seiko. That's like my preferred case shape from them. So that's why I went with that. So with the dress watch, I spent most of the remaining balance and got the Laurier Zephyr. So it's kind of this amalgamation. It's not quite the rectangular style tank style watch, because I know Seiko has had a few of those, at least quartz ones, and I thought about going for that. And then I decided no, because with this, it uses a Miyota movement. I can give you a mechanical dress watch too. So that's what I did to spend most of my money down. So that got me up to about $900. And then I dropped just under $100 with one of the Casios. I went with the 100 VB-1A version. So it's sort of a colorful one, probably honestly more colorful than I would normally buy, because I'm really boring with most of my watches other than my dive watches. But, robust. It's a G-Shock. It's respected. People like it, right? I mean, this one's a little fun. So I kind of felt like it fit the wild card better, because I do have a pretty prototypical dive watch here. And I did get a little weird on the branding for the Laurier, but so those were my picks. And let me go ahead and just bounce us over. So this should be Ken. Ken, what do you got for us?
Yeah. So with my dress watch, I went with the Tissot Viso date, and really when I was putting together this collection, I don't want to sound like some jerk snob or anything, but I actually don't know much about this category at the moment. I haven't done enough research. So what I did was I just picked watches that I own myself. So let's get into a little bit of Hodinkee talking watches. So yeah, I mean, I got this Tissot Viso date when I was working overseas. I won a little bit at a casino, a little bit. Glad I didn't lose. So that's where I got this. It's a great dress watch. For the money, especially, really goes well, and really served me well over a few years working. Actually, Dennis, I have the G-Shock here. It's actually an all black with all black markers, right? So
okay. I saw that one too. When you said GA 2100, there's so many.
Yeah, I hear you. All right, so yeah, you stole my idea there, Dennis. So, but yeah, this is really my Royal Oak homage watch. Really light on the wrist, fits great for everything. And this is the moon swatch I picked up about a couple months ago, Uranus. I have to say it's a great watch. It's actually my daily wear every day because it's so light and comfy. But I just have to say the strap, it's starting to get yellow. The strap's supposed to be white after probably like 6 weeks. And the part with the Velcro here, I don't recommend getting I really don't recommend getting these white Omega swatch straps, because the Velcro here just gets dirty like every couple of days, and who knows, I lost count how many times I had to brush this with like toothpaste, but whatever. So yeah, that's my affordable trio.
All right. Well, I think we're going to see a little bit of quasi deja vu here. We already just did with the Casiokes, but I think Patrick has a similar wild card in play.
Yeah. Well, Ken, first of all, I'm going to say that you're the first person I know who's actually kept your moon swatch on the absolutely shit, wannabe NATO or whatever they call it. I mean, that strap is such hot garbage.
It's awful.
But,
Yeah.
I'm lucky enough that I've had a couple companies send me some of the integrated ones, which are actually pretty pricey to the point that I don't think I would buy one, except that they gifted them to me. But I did buy a nice $20 just white, before I got those, just a $20 one on Amazon, and I mean, comfy, great. It's worth it. I said the watches I love, but get rid of that garbage strap. Go get yourself a $20 Amazon strap, and you'll love your watch even more.
Was it like an Amazon branded strap, or is it?
I just typed in white rubber strap and 20
Rubber,
mil,
okay.
and boom, it was just on the list, and I said it's great, but it'll change your life when it comes to that watch, because you're right, the watch is great, but let me introduce one thing in my collection. In part is I don't like dress watches, so this 3-watch collection was actually very hard for me because.
But you're into pocket watches, the dressiest of dress,
and that's fine. It's just dress watches are my pet peeve, mostly because most dress watches aren't real world enough, and by that I mean they don't have any waterproof. And I don't consider 50 meters real waterproof, even though, I'm sure it is. I'm sure you can wash your hands with it. But, I would be devastated if I bought a really nice watch that was 50 meters and I washed my hands. The next thing I know, I saw, fog or water in my crystal. So as I said, I'm a snob to water resistance. And kind of what I think Ken said too, we can lie to ourselves or not, we're all watch snobs. We're just watch snobs at the price point that we can afford. Everyone wants the best that they can afford. And if you don't agree with that, you're just lying to yourself. And that's fine. But, live in denial. But as I said, for me, I'm not a fan of dress watches. So it took a little extra homework for me to find some dress watches on here. But while I was looking for an economical dress watch, my big votes were Seiko and Citizen. And Citizen was just a little bit less expensive, so I can squeeze in the watch that I really wanted to. And by doing so, I found this Citizen Corso. And it's a nice looking watch. And, it's an eco drive, which means it's solar powered with a internal battery. So until that capacitor goes out in about 10 years, you've got a watch that's bulletproof. And, that's pretty darn great for $375. I mean, if I saw this years back, as I said, I don't even look in this genre, but I was really impressed with this watch. And, for someone who's starting out and wants something a little dressy, I think it's a great choice. Going to the real watch that I wanted to highlight in this, which was the PRX. And, conveniently enough, guess what? I just bought the sport model that I would if I was on $1,000 total budget. Because, I mean, I was kind of thinking the Moon Swatch was going to be like the pride and joy of this collection until I got the PRX, because they're virtually in the same price point. I mean, $260, $350. Come on, don't eat McDonald's for a week and buy a better watch. You could get a Tissot, and I mean, it's a great watch. I mean, the quality is just so good and robust on it. So, I'm just so pleasantly surprised with it. But, whether you get the one on the bracelet, whether you get the one now on the rubber strap, it's just a great watch. I mean, I said, I'm filming a video, finishing it up for tomorrow, where you can see a bunch of close-ups of the dial and all the finishing. But I mean, it's just a really well-finished watch. And the giggle I made while recording was, it's nicer finished than a Rolex. I mean, I said, let's get the Rolex people angry at me. But, Rolex doesn't have 3 or 4 finishes on one watch. The Tissot does. So, take that, Rolex, for $350. But so I said, that's the one. And the wild card, I put it in the wild just because you have to be lucky enough to go to a state that has the boutique. And, within the last 2 years, I've gone to 2 states that did. Went to New York, where I picked up the Sun, and I went to Las Vegas, where I picked up the Mars. and they had the Uranus at Las Vegas, and I was so tempted, but I'm like, I don't need to buy 2 at one time. So, maybe I'll get lucky in some other state I visit in the next year or two. They'll have it, because those are the 3 that I like: is the Sun, Mars, and Uranus. And get a good strap for it. And you're right, Ken. It's a perfect everyday watch. It's not water resistant, but at the same time, it's kind of a toy watch. So you just wear it and you don't worry about it. But as I said, there's my $1,000 total budget.
Okay. Well, now because I of course got to see everyone's ahead of time. In my defense, though, none of you know this. I did mine first so that I wouldn't change anything based off of what I saw. I super pinky promised that. This is what Tony went with, though. Very different.
I went very different. I did go vintage. Everything is from late 50s or early to mid 60s.
And I want to thank you for this, Tony.
Because only one dress watch, I thought.
Yeah. I want to thank Tony, though, because he made me go and transparent erase around all of these chrono images I had to pull. There wasn't a single render I could just take with an already transparent background, which is what I normally do. Is I'll search for Tissot PRX transparent in Google Image, and then I'll find a render and I'll throw it in. I don't have to change the background color, but not with these. I had to
I had to make him work for it. I had to make him work for it. I did pull all of these straight off a Chrono 24. For my dress watch, I went with this Hamilton Arnold. They're from the late 50s, early to mid 60s. I just love the look of it, the kind of pie plate with the gold, and it's got the I'm trying to remember the name of the work, but it's all circular on the inside between the gold and the guilloche. Thank you. And I just thought it was a lovely looking little watch while I was staying in my 60s Target area. And then for my sport watch, I had a lot of problems coming up with a sport watch I liked for a halfway decent price. I ended up with this Bull of a Sea King, which is supposedly still has good waterproofing on it. And I'm like, okay, sure, it's from the 60s, whatever. But they claim the waterproofing's still good on it.
They may have tested it.
That maybe, but I just really liked the way it looked, and the hour markers having this almost coffin-esque shape to it. Really, that's I thought creepy. Was kind of an interesting thing to go with. And then my wild card. I literally picked my wild card because it was exactly $102 and it let me come into exactly $1,000. It is some random watch that I found because I put the search terms from $100 to $102 and I picked a $102 watch just because I wanted to hit the 1,000 exactly. And this of the ones that fell in the range, I thought this one was the most interesting. I've never heard of Anseer. I've never heard of any of this stuff. Even when I looked it up, I didn't find very much online about it. But I thought it looked halfway interesting, and it let me hit $1,000 exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So those are all the base $1,000 collection. So people, if you're on live and you want to vote, go ahead and get your votes in now before I close the poll out. I guess, I didn't really think what to do in terms of a game on it, but does anyone want to trash anyone's collection that they picked to kind of try and edge out the few live viewers?
I don't want to trash, but I am glad somebody did put a PRX in because me and Dennis had an entire conversation while I was picking my watches out about how there had to be a PRX somewhere in the 1,000 tier because it made no sense for there not to be one, to the point where I was considering doing it, and then I decided to go all vintage.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, Tony, the only thing that I'm shocked about with your collection, I'm shocked that some of those watches actually went for as much as they're asking for. I mean, a vintage Hamilton like that, I'm kind of surprised to go $500 because you could buy a new khaki Field for about that. So I'm surprised.
Yeah, no, I was surprised when I found a lot of the stuff. It's okay, apparently people are very proud, but supposedly it's in great condition and this and that. So that's the route I went.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's hard for me to trash Patrick because Patrick's three watch affordable because we pretty much have the same thing. We both have we both have a moon swatch. We both have a Tissot and we both have a octagonal type of watch too. So.
Yeah. My main thing actually would probably be agreeing with what Obese Tuna said in the chat, which is with Tony's collection, my fear would be like, is the waterproof? Is that really still? And I saw on that one that the Bulova, the seller did actually say, like, I don't know, they put in new gaskets and they tested it and it's got the resistance that's supposed to have. But I would be scared to buy that many. Like if it was my whole collection and they were all old, I would be afraid I would baby them. Though maybe not if they're each just a few $100 a pop. Obviously, I with Ken doing a G-Shock and that was the same model family that I picked. I was kind of like, well, I can't really argue with that. And then Patrick picked a PRX, much like how I had a PRX. So I was like, well, yeah, that's a logical one. I didn't want to go to the PRX as per Tony's conversation because I was like, it was too. I thought, is everyone going to pick it? And instead, everyone picks G-Shocks, which I also thought, and then still caved in because when you have $99 left, what can I do that people are going to respect still? I was, I was too low on funds to do something fun like a moon swatch.
Yeah. So. The only thing I'd say for any new watch people who are watching this and truly thinking, hey, I'm going to do a pick 3 for $1,000. I just have one thought, and that is if you're going to spend $1,000 on watches, buy one watch. You can get one good watch for under $1,000 that is so much better than 3 not as good watches. And the brand new 12 that came out by Christopher Ward is proof of that. I mean, that is a hell of a lot of watch for the almost $1,000 price tag, and you can get the automatic version of the PRX, and once again, a hell of a lot of watch for $700. I think a lot of new collectors make the mistake of buying smaller, less expensive, and then they regret it when they sell those off, lose money, and then buy what they wanted in the first place.
I think that's a good idea. One nice, good watch. And the G-Shock, because you got to have a beater.
It's weird. So I would say I agree with Patrick, though. Normally, I expect someone to have something under $1,000 initially to know that they like a watch. And I think for a lot of us, we probably grew up wearing a watch at some point. Like I've had a watch ever since I was in middle school. My first nice watch was a Citizen, my first adult watch, which is so I had a sympathy for that. It wasn't an Eco Drive, not back then, but. So I did like Patrick's pick there. I like this comment from Neff because the way he says about closing the poll too early suggests he didn't pick mine. He did. According to the poll results, Patrick actually won with a plurality of support at 42%. Right. I was second and 28%. And Ken and Tony, you both tied with 14%.
Oh my God.
I mean, Ken,
it was the PRX.
Our collections were almost the same.
No, it was
I thought we would split the votes.
No, it's the moon. It was that. I would have thought the moon swatch it's just too pricey, but Patrick got away with it. He did the gamble right. So
yeah, but technically Tony cheated. You had at least 2 dress watches there, Tony.
Did, but one of them was a wild card.
Yeah. Well, I know he means the Bulova. He means the Bulova.
The Bulova. It was listed as a sport watch.
It says right on the dial, waterproof. It might not be true,
exactly. That was my same thought. I saw it. And I go. I was going to say, Tony, this is another gold watch, and I go. It says waterproof. I guess it's sporty. What can you do? Plus, it had the word C in the title.
Yeah. It's. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Okay. This time, so no one misclicks or worries about it, I'll put the poll live after we go through all of them. That one, I wasn't sure if I pre-launched it earlier than I needed to. So we will now do the $10,000 tier. We'll go in the same order. So I will go ahead and kick us off. And so this is mine. Now, unlike Patrick, I actually like dress watches a lot. So for me, I have a tendency to want to spend more money in the dress watch space. So in this instance, I'm going to, this is going to be true for a lot of my stuff. I'm going with things I generally haven't owned. Well, that's going to be easy once we get to 30,000. But so here, this is one that I was very tempted to until I went in other directions with my collection. But I've always liked the Omega DeVilles, at least those that don't have the date at the 3 o'clock. And so I've gone ahead and chosen this version of the DeVille Prestige, $4,500 watch. This pricing was off of Joma Shop. So that's what they're trading it for. So it's coaxial. It's got all that nice color match date window. Omega doesn't always do that. I'm looking at you, Aquaterra Sapphire dial that I want to love, except the white wheel kills it for me. Nice. None of the numerals are cropped. I have a thing about hour markers being cropped by things like subdials and such, and where you see part of them, like how we're often done in pocket watches. I can't stand that. So this doesn't do that. Date window's nicely placed above the 6. Simple 3-hander other than that. Steel, but subtle, sophisticated. I like it a lot. Then for my sports watch, where I spent the second most amount of money, again, this I believe was a Joma Shop pricing. This might have been from Chrono. I don't remember which. $3,600 for a Pelagos. So I did own a Black Bay at one point. I had a Black Bay bronze. Pelagos, though, I was always really interested in. I like the more rugged look that it has. I like that it's titanium. I like this style, the more original style where it was, more depth and stuff. Not that I need that depth, but I like the insets for all of the markers that they cut into the dial, which they don't do on the smaller versions that they came out with. So just like how really clean it is, but it feels a little less vintage inspired than the Black Bays do. So I went ahead and went with that for my sports watch. And then for my wild card at a little over $1,800, and this one was off of, Chrono, I think, was the Oris Big Crown Automatic. I looked at a few Oris big dates because I like that date complication of the pointer dates, I should say. But the problem is I hate cathedral hands. So I have to roll out all Orises that have cathedral hands because I can't stand them, and I don't think anyone should have them in their collection at $10,000. So I had to go with something like this, where the hands aren't defensive. I like that you're kind of creative. You got the small seconds over at the 9 o'clock. Not a lot of watches do that. I'm seeing more and more of them, and you still get the little pointer hand going on here. So I just overall, I mean, that's a GMT hand in this case, not a pointer date because we got the date at 3 o'clock, but I just think it looks really different, much more aviation inspired versus what really are going to be in any of my other picks that we're going to see. So that's what I ran with. Okay, let me kick it over to Ken.
All right. So my dress watch, and I'm going to add to what Patrick said. I'm really not into dress watches either. Dennis, I know you work your 5-day a week going to the office job. You're wearing suits. That's great for dress watches. But I'm going to repeat something that my friend Buckley said. We're in the age of hybrids, right? Be it no matter what it is, cars, going to work, watches. We have to have watches that are for all purpose, dress, any occasion. And nobody does it better than Rolex with the date just for a dress watch, especially. And this was always my favorite date just, the 16234 white dial, white or silver dial, sticker numerals. This is a do anything watch, any occasion for especially for going to work, any occasion, dress. All right. So I spent the most money on the Rolex. I was able to get that in there, which wasn't easy for $10,000 for a $10,000 budget trying to get a Rolex in there, but we got it. And then the sport watch went with with a Tudor similar to yours, Dennis, but always love the 58 blue. I think it's a great value in today's market. Really, any Black Bay, maybe any Tudor is a great value secondhand in today's market. But this one, I just feel like doesn't have any Rolex homages to it. All right. And then the wild card is I managed to fit a Speedy in there. It's the Speedy reduced for the budget I had, but I think it punches pretty above its weight. Has a ETA rock solid movement. But I was able to get a white silver dial, a colored blue dial, and a black dial from Rolex, Tudor, and Omega. So that's 10 grand.
Okay. On to Patrick.
Man, Ken, you're really going to make this a hard sell. You got a Rolex, a Tudor, and an Omega in there. So I'm just going to have to put on my salesman cap. But, pretty much what I did for at least my category was there was the one watch that I really wanted in the list. And then I kind of thought, what could I get in the list that went with it? And so I'm going to go a little bit backwards on this one because the watch that I wanted in a $10,000 budget was pretty much, I wanted to get in a Zen. And I've been waiting a long time for this Zen to release. So this is the U50 Pro. And so it's pretty much like the Zen up there. That's the SDR tegmented, except I guess, you can kind of maybe see it. They made some small changes with the coloring. They changed the position of some of the text. they put the crown at 10 o'clock, and they put some super crazy lume on there. And, it's a limited edition of about 150. I don't remember, but pretty much they made it in a small batch, and they'll never make it again. And so once again, for me, whenever something's weird and a little bit different, that just made me go, yes. But for those who can't get your hands on the pro or the weird version, they still make cool versions all the time. Whether it be, this somewhat standard one, they just made one with gold, bronze, and they've got weird textured dials, and Zin is just a bulletproof watch. So if I was, at a $10,000 budget and I wanted a watch, there should be a Zin in that list, because it just is your true wear it every day. You're not going to scratch it because it's tegmented. It's just a tough watch. So pro Zin. So then filling in the rest of it, I wanted to get a dress watch. And though my dress watch is maybe not that dressy, it's by a dressy brand and it's got Roman numerals. So you got to give it some dress credit. And that's the Cartier Roadster. And I love to make fun of Cartier because I think most fanboys out there who like Cartier only like them because they're sucking up to their ADs to buy a Rolex. 5 years ago, no one gave a rat's ass about the Santos. And I think 5 years from now, no one's going to give a rat's ass about the Santos. It's not a bad watch. It's just a boring watch. Sorry. To me, Cartier's made two watches in their history that were decent. And that's the Calibre de Cartier, which they made it in a diver and a non-diver form, and the Roadster. The Roadster's just got personality. And one day I'm going to pick one up. I just haven't found one. I want to probably find one in a shop that I can actually see and hold instead of just buying it online. But I think it's a really cool watch, 100 meters water resistant. It's just a cool oddball watch that I think deserves some love. And hey, maybe they'll re-release it someday, and then I can even buy a new one. But then I gotta go Doxa on there because I kind of forgot about it. So
Who's getting in the case?
So I've been wanting to get a Doxa for a while, and right before they released that Doxa, they released this Doxa. And so this is the Doxa Army, but this is the limited ceramic edition. And so I'm kind of pissed off at Doxa because I like the Doxa that's on the screen more than I like this one. So I think the green bezel with the bronze is just awesome. And though this one's unique because it's the only ceramic one, I think that's cool, but I actually think the one on the screen looks better. And, it's just a great watch. So it's a tough, rugged dive watch. It's got some personality. Go Doxa. And, they make it in carbon fiber. They make it in weird, fun colors. So you can get a Doxa for pretty much a couple $1,000. And, it's going to last you a lifetime. So, I got a Cartier somewhat dress. I got a Doxa Super Sport. And then, as I said, a Zin, which I think everyone should add to their collection someday. You won't regret it.
I do like your argument that it's dressed because it has Roman numerals. I think I often agree with that. So it's a pretty solid argument.
I do like the Roadster. It's cool looking.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. I'll say my thoughts. So Tony, okay, well, you didn't go full vintage this time.
No, I didn't. I went with one vintage watch. The Vacheron Constantin 6062 is from 1967. Pink gold, got the honeycomb going on, and I like Vaches, and that's where I dumped almost all of my money because I just think it's beautiful. Mm-hmm. Now, once again, my sport watch is debatable-ish to some people. This is the re-release special edition of the Seiko Alpinist. When they put out the special reprint limited edition of the 59 Alpinist, the couple years ago they put it out. I liked it then. It's one of the few watches that has the date in between the 4 and 5 that I don't absolutely hate. Just something about the simplicity of the Alpinist really does it for me. And then for my wild card, I went with the khaki field titanium from Hamilton because khaki fields are great watches, and a titanium version is just that much better. I mean, it looks nice, and it's a nice little bit of watch. But I definitely did this round as 100%. What can I afford after buying the Vacheron? That is completely what this round was.
What are the sizes of these watches, Tony? Because from what Dennis, Photoshop, it looks like the Vacheron is like a deep sea challenge, and the Seiko is like a ladies' day just.
Welcome to Dennis's editing skills. It depends how much of the strap was in the image. Really influences the size. Yeah, I think that VC was probably around a 34, but
Okay.
But I'll let Tony say if he knows.
I think I've got it here called up. I think the VC's a 34. 35. It's a 35 9mm.
That's an accurate representation. I've done well.
And then the Alpinist is 36.6.
Okay.
On the Alpinist.
Go, guys. Seiko's actually bigger than the VC. And
yes.
Hamilton, I guess, 39 to 40.
On the
Probably.
Hamilton,
yes,
I would assume so.
I don't think they go smaller than 38.5 on those.
Yeah,
I don't think so. I think because the smallest watch I currently own is a 38, and I'm pretty sure the Hamilton is in the same. The Field's in the same range. It is a 42. Actually,
yeah, I was gonna say most of their Fields I think are 38.5 or 42. So
yeah, you need a bigger watch, Tony. Yeah.
But
I do need
in my
bigger
defense
watches.
for the
I'm at a huge
Alpinist, I
risk.
had to show the bun strap to help show that it was indeed a sports watch. Plus, those that know the Alpinist know that is Seiko's take on the Field watch. So it's a legitimate sports watch. Okay, I do have the poll live. I put it live while Tony was explaining the Hamilton, so all the watches have been mentioned. So people who are watching live can go ahead and vote. So thoughts, Tony? What are your thoughts on other people's selections?
I like them all. I'm surprised Ken was able to get a Rolex and a Speedmaster in there. That was really surprising to me. And Tudor being in two places isn't a surprise to me either. Tudors are pretty nice, all in all. And I like that Cartier, that Roadster. I don't like Cyclops dials. Everybody knows I don't like Cyclops dials. I'm very, very adamantly against Cyclops styles, but the one on the Roadster makes it look cool because it looks like something that's just been strapped on the side as opposed to just glued on top. It looks more impressive to me like that.
They kind of integrate the magnifier into the weird crown, and it kind of makes that oblong football thing. You're right, it does really sort of tie it together.
Yeah, that was my initial reaction was, oh, that's a really weird Cyclops. But as I stared at it more while Patrick was talking, I actually started thinking, overall, though, that whole watch is weird. So it kind of seems to work.
It does.
And I say that as a former Santos owner and took all that hit where I bought mine used and didn't get any credit for a Rolex or anything. So I really missed out. But Zen is a brand. I've heard about the robustness. They're so well respected, and their dials are so ugly, and this is no exception. It looks like a Lego dial, and the Doxa looks weird too. And it's like I almost got a Doxa, but never this type. The hands are weird to me. In the case of both of those watches, and the whole dial is weird to me on that Zen. It's so Lego. I just don't. Yeah. That's all I see is Lego.
You would probably like the Zen. It's the T version versus the U version. So it's pretty much the exact same watch, except it's got sword hands and it gets rid of the block.
I do love sword hands and non-blocks. So you're right.
I mean, as I said, if you check out the Zen lineup, they've got a watch for you. I mean, they make weird ones. They make plain ones. They make aviators. They really touch everything.
I did go and look at those new T50s that they had just before Time to Watches hit. And those were pretty nice. Like the one with the bronze bezel in particular, I really, I thought that but that one was, maybe that's not, I think the bezel one might've been limited. I don't know. They do a lot of limiteds.
Yeah, one of them was. The best part about the Zen for me was when Tim Masso used to own one, and he would take his keys and he'd scratch the watch and you'd see this damage, but he's like, that's not the watch, that's my keys. And he would he'd flake it off because he would actually chip off metal from his keys. You're like, Wow.
He'll never get in his car again.
Yeah. So,
I like
that-
Tim's
that-
channel a lot. He's
that was a good sales pitch for me. I wasn't brave enough to do that to my own watch on my own review video, but I'll just take Tim's word for it.
All right. Any thoughts from you, Ken?
Yeah, I mean, another question. I mean, the prices that we got, they were Chrono 24 prices, Tony, like for your VC.
Yeah.
Okay.
I actually have the links to all of them to each individual one, even the VC. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy putting together. Dennis is pretty strict with the budgets. If I even go over by $1, he's like, nope, get it out of there, or reduce the other watch.
Absolutely,
these days.
no cheating allowed. No cheating allowed.
Yes.
Okay. In my defense, Ken wanted to go over by about $2 billion, not 10, or more accurately, 3,500. And then he wanted to go over by 2,500 because he's still remembering 2018 watch prices.
Well, I thought I had a chance to negotiate some of this stuff because I was looking at Moda prices as well as Chrono.
Well, and Moda, if we get kicked out of the group, we can't buy from Moda. So I have to think about those poor watch dealers that lost their permissions. I have to be considerate like that. So I did close the poll out, and Patrick, you won again cleanly this time with 60% of the vote. Ken and Tony were tied for second at 20%, and no one picked mine.
Ooh.
Wow.
That's right.
That's the community backing you, Patrick.
That's right.
It must be secret roadster love. That's what it is.
Well, it was. I mean, maybe they're Lego fans. So
it could be. But
that could be an angle. I mean, I was pretty toxic to that Zen, and they may have punished me for it.
Yeah.
Held off the vote until
come on.
They heard my words.
Is someone from the community that they left Tim Wright stream and joined here? Come on, give a shout, guys. Anybody, come on. You can't tell me that. I love Tim and all that, but you can't tell me you're joining an 8-9 hour Tim stream where they're talking great shit every day, but you don't have like the structure that Dennis put all his effort to in this one, where we can get all
mine are mostly watched on replay, not live. So, and I don't normally, and I have no consistent time. That doesn't help either. I do live streams whenever people can get together. So,
all right,
that's my excuses. Could also be my really bad, like I make 35mm watches look like 45s because of my fancy zoom and enhance techniques on GIMP because I don't have Photoshop. I have to use GIMP. So, which I do recommend for people looking for a free photo editor. GIMP is very powerful, very open source too. So, nice package. Speaking of nice, we will go into the final set of collections, the $30,000 total budget tier. I look forward, once I make the poll live, of getting 0% of your votes. But in my defense, this time I did not put all of my bulk of my funding or my most amount into my dress watch. So this is what I have done. We're going to do JLC, Blancpain, and Breguet. So my dress watch will be the JLC Reverso Duo Face. I do own a Reverso. It's basically this dial of the front. But I don't own the Duo Face. I didn't want to spend that much money. So 9,800 was able to find that watch for. You reverse the side of it and you get your travel time. So it's sort of like a GMT, but instead of having a GMT hand, it's a GMT dial. So yes, it completely defeats the original purpose of the Reverso, but no one uses those as sports watches anymore anyway, because as Patrick can tell you, they're only 30 meters of water resistance. So this is what they're for. They're for dressy times. So that's my dress watch. Then sports. I did think about going for like a no date sub, which if I was to get another Rolex at this point, the no date sub's really the only one I want. But you can get such a better deal on the Blancpain. Now, I know a lot of people like the original Blancpain 50 Fathoms. It's overly tooly in my eyes for the price that it commands. I think it needs to be a little dressy. My bias is towards dressy. So I've gone with the Blancpain Bathyscaphe, which actually is a fairly controversial watch with people. I assume because of the 430 date above anything else. But anyway, so that is a watch that would normally be 5 figures, but can be readily found for under $7,000 on Chrono 24. I've actually seen these go as low as 6,500 within the last 2 months. But anyway, so it's robust. You get a gold rotor. It's a display case back, but it also still has like the 300 meters of water resistance. So it's a very robust. Blancpain knows how to make a dive watch. So this has actually been a watch I've really considered getting, except that would put me back up to 4 dive watches, and I'd probably want to sell one off at that point because I don't like to own that many of them. And then so for my wild card, I picked a watch that I always felt lives in a weird space. This is the Breguet Marine Big Date. I think this was the prior. They don't make this anymore. I think it was the last gen, basically. They still do Marines. They don't do this model, though. So you can find these for a little over $13,000 used. You get the guilloche pattern. You get a Big Date style. You get Roman numerals. So this is sort of that Marine chronometer style watch. So it kind of looks sporty. It comes on a rubber strap, but it's got the Roman numerals. So as Patrick has explained to everyone, that does mean it's kind of a dress watch too. And it says Breguet, so it's kind of a dress watch too, because the word Breguet only makes you think of fancy dress watches, which might be part of the company's problem. But regardless, that actually is where I dropped most of my money in. I came in a few $100s under the 30,000 with this build out. So,
yeah, that's a nice Breguet, Dennis.
Federico owns that model.
Yeah,
I think that's the reference he has.
They really got to do something to market their watches better, because they could, they have so much history, and they could come out with decent stuff, but just nobody knows about it. All right, so my watches.
And feel free to explain how I didn't let you have your $18,000 Royal Low.
I will. I went a lot of back and forth went with this, but at the end of the day, when I was building these like 10,000, 30,000 collections, I wanted to spread out the funds a little bit evenly with 3 watches that are somewhat in the same range. So first one, IWC dress watch. This one I think retails for around probably double, at least double, 17, 18. You can pick it up secondhand these days for 8,000, and you can really plug in other brands as well. Maybe a Zenith. I found a Bucherer that was like 4,500, which I wanted to stick in there, but I had a lot of budget left over. So, but at the end of the day, I went with this IWC. Actually got a 18 karat gold watch in there with a solid gold case back, not a display case back. So get a big watch, 42 millimeter, big dial, solid gold case back, and that'll be my dress for interviews and office whenever I need to go to a big meeting or a dress occasion. Now, smartwatch. So obviously a lot of options here, but with an 11,000, 10 to 12,000 range, this is, I think, this is my favorite GMT, and I think it's probably the most versatile GMT in there. I didn't go with the Pepsi just for you, Tony, but this one, yeah, I think this one is not only the best value. There was a watch charts video today about what are like looking at all the GMTs in the market today, 6-digit GMTs, all GMTs, but this one is probably the best value today at this price point. I also think it's the most versatile in that there's no flashy bicolor bezel that's in everybody's face and attracts so much attention. It doesn't have a Jubilee bracelet, but it also has the PCL ceramics PCL bracelet and the ceramic bezel. So I think it can work both understated with the all black bezel, and it could work as a flashy, dressier occasion with the ceramic and the polished center links. So other options I also had for this category is GMT, the 5-digit GMT, the 16710, probably around the same price range, maybe $1,000 cheaper. But in that case, you get the option of, instead of 2 watches from Dennis's JLC, you get 3 bezels that you can change, and you get also Jubilee and an Oyster you can change as well. And then the wild card. So yeah, I mean, I try to fit in like an AP and an AP offshore in there, but I was a few thousand over budget. All right, so that got kicked out. So the wild card, I went with this GP, and I just have a thing for black watches, all black watches, and AP. You know, you try to get an AP black ceramic watch. You're paying probably 5 to 10 times this. GP was one, yeah, and I wanted a ceramic bracelet, all black watch that can do everything. Fits a lot of people's style with this one.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry about. I tried to figure out a way to math that would let
I
you have
tried.
that
I tried. Yeah, I tried to fit in a Bucherer in there for. I'm amazed I found a Bucherer in there for.
You might have been able to
4,500.
do it if you downgraded your dress to like a Tissot gentleman or something. We might have been able to make it work.
Yeah, I didn't, because if I did that, I felt like I would just have 2 watches, and instead of a 3-watch collection. So I wanted something a little bit more upscale for the dress, even though my
That's
2 main
fair.
guys
That's
are
fair.
sporting well.
And as Tony noted, he does greatly appreciate you not including the Pepsi bezel.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right,
Well, we got Rolex fans in the house.
My polarizing 30K choices. So at the 30,000 budget, I thought it was appropriate to bring in a watch that can be a dress watch, but isn't necessarily a dress watch. And when the SVGY009 came out, I did a cart flip of joy because I'd been looking for a Grand Seiko. I've been looking one with an interesting dial, and even though the pictures are absolutely horrible of this watch because it just looks blue, it actually has a sort of a guilloche sunray pattern underneath there that you just can't see. But what I loved about it was it's the 44 GS case, and it's 100 meters of water resistance. And what did I do when I got it? I put it on a rubber strap. So immediately I tried to undress watch it immediately. And there's a really cool brand out there called allwrists.com that makes integrated straps for Grand Seiko. And do I wish that it was automatic? 100%, because hand winding is a little bit annoying, but at the end of the day, I can deal with that. But I finally was able to get the Grand Seiko that I wanted, just something blue, because that's Grand Seiko's color, and something with a really fun dial. And when it released, as I said, I bought it 5 minutes after it dropped, because 12 o'clock in the morning, I saw the ad and I go, yes. And, there it is. So, Grand Seiko, if you're in the $30,000 budget, I think you're going to get a great dress watch, because they do sell lots of dress watches. And, you're going to be different from the rest, because even though Grand Seiko is getting more, attention these days, still, if I'm at work and I look down and I see somebody walking in with, a Grand Seiko or a Crador or, some very Japanese-esque brand, I know that person likes watches. You see someone wearing a Rolex and you're just like, well, are you just a sheep or do you like watches? And, you can't tell because it goes both ways. What a wonderful transition to my second watch. I also did a kickflip of joy because, I know they've been making the Yachtmaster with that prototype model that sailor guy had. And do I think they released the best version of it? Absolutely not. I don't think it should be slab-sided. I think it should be a typical Yachtmaster versus pretty much being a titanium sub, which is what it is. But what I love about this watch and why I put my name on the list at my AD, even though they will probably laugh at me for the rest of time, I love the bezel. So I love the, I don't know if you call it the backwards ceramic. I like the way that it's all matte except that the numbers are polished. I think that is just the most gorgeous bezel, and until this watch it was only available on the gold watches, and well, I'm not a gold guy, so this is pretty much the only chance that I would have to get it. I'd immediately throw it on a rubber strap, even though I'm sure that titanium strap is gorgeous, but that to me is just a perfect everyday Rolex, and might be a little big. I wish it was a 40, but I'll make do. But I think that's a great watch in this price point. And my wild card is truly a wild card because if I had an extra $6,500 to throw around, I would either get something similar to what I've got here, which is a Vortic, pocket watch conversion watch, which, I made this one myself out of a really rare watch and a really rare dial and had the guys of a Vortic make it. But RGM's kind of their competitor. And what I like about that watch is the watch I made was a 12 size, which for all the pocket watch nerds pretty much means it's about a 40 millimeter watch, plus the case makes it a pretty big watch. That watch is a 10 size, which makes it pretty much about 40 millimeters with the case. So it's going to be a much slimmer, sleeker package. And, the movement that they use for that one is just a gorgeous Hamilton. And, they put a really cool railroad dial on there and put the crown at, a 2 o'clock position. And I think it's just a stellar watch. Is it a little pricey for what it is? 100% RGM. But, it's gorgeous. And as I said, if I had $30,000 to just throw away to a collection, I think my dress, my everyday wear sport, and my truly wild card is not a bad way to go.
All right. And Tony, we're going to see another brand matchup here. Not RGM, of course. That's way too esoteric. But what do you got?
Yeah, this is my more balanced version of my 30,000 because my original 30,000 was a Vacheron Overseas, a PRX Quartz, and a G-Shock. And I decided that wasn't taking the actual spirit into account.
That's
So
never stopped you in any other game that we've done.
I know, but I went with the Cartier Tank Solo. I like tank watches. This wasn't even the first dress watch I'd had originally picked, but I shifted to this one. And I just think the tanks look nice. And it's obviously a dress watch. It's gold. It's got a jewel, and it has Roman numerals. So it feels all the important stuff there. Then it gets interesting because my sport pick is an Omega Speedmaster. But this is the Apollo 11 25th anniversary edition that was released in 94. It's a 2,500. There were 2,500 of them made. This one is number 360 of the 2,500, and it is the full set with the box and everything. It's currently available on Chrono 24. So it has all the paperwork, the special box, and everything for the actual 25th anniversary of the Apollo 11 mission. So I just thought that was a nice way to take a Speedmaster and throw it into an even more expensive tier. And then my last one is a Grand Seiko. It's my favorite Grand Seiko. It's the Grand Seiko Godzilla 65th anniversary edition.
Nice. Yeah.
It's beautiful. The very first time I ever saw one, I was like, oh, it's done. Grand Seiko will never make anything better than this because I'm a huge Godzilla fan. And quite frankly, that watch is just beautiful. The red and the star and the sunburst and everything is just wonderful.
And it's really big. Don't let my picture fool you. The Apollo 11 is not the biggest watch.
Yeah.
But it doesn't wear big. It really doesn't. I've tried that watch on.
Yeah, it is just lovely.
The strap is so Godzilla, that one.
All right, so let me kick the poll live for the live audience so they can go ahead and make their picks out of these groupings. All right, anyone want to weigh in? I guess go kind of in reverse order if you want. Tony, any thoughts on any of the prior collections that you saw?
The pocket watch conversion thing, I've never seen anything like it, and I think it's really cool. I know Dennis hates it because the 7 and the 5 are cut.
Well, this had 2 other dials. Patrick just picked the worst one, but
no,
I think it looks great.
The Type 2 dial was better, and then there was a third type of dial that was like not a Montgomery style that I really liked.
I mean, if the front isn't beautiful enough, look at how beautiful the back is.
I do
Yeah,
admit
that's amazing.
I've always been a fan of the individual bridges for each piece of the gear train.
So
Now, now, in the being less nice, man, so many Rolexes. And I'll never understand why Rolex opened their titanium line with the Yachtmaster. That seems like such an explorer thing to me. But
yeah, it surprised me too.
Yeah, they're always trying to bump up the Yachtmaster with all types of colored dials, whatever they can to try and like get that brand to sell better.
Yeah, all right, I buy that one. Let's see, my go-to loves are Tony. I love your Godzilla. I mean that case is so interesting when you wear it, and this is the only version that isn't butt ugly because every other version of this watch that they've made, because I'm a Grand Seiko fanboy, so I mean, I know every model they've ever made. You know, they've made them in a lion homage, and pretty much they have some weird fur pattern on there, which truly looks like a turd. And so, I mean, every other version of that watch is hideous, but that Godzilla is gorgeous. Only gripe, I wish the guy who painted the Godzilla on the back just did a little better job. The Godzilla print on the back, I don't think it does it justice. Like, I'm fine with Godzilla back there. I just think they almost kind of cartoonized it too much, and it just doesn't look as good as it could. But, you know, I was really tempted because my an old AD that was Grand Seiko, and I guess they lost their Grand Seiko privileges. They had it for like a decade, and they just couldn't sell the thing. And I almost just wanted to go there and be like, what is your lowest price? But I never did. But I love that choice. I really love the Blancpain. I've been debating one of those for a long time. But my only reservation, even though it wears well, they won't make it anything but a 42 or a 43. Like, I don't know why they're making all these bathyscaphs so big. Like, I just wish they'd make it a little smaller. Even though it's got short lugs, it really doesn't wear that big, but I wish it just was a little smaller.
Did they not at one point have a slightly smaller model that was closed case back?
They might have. I'm thinking that they might have released one of those like super limited ones in a 40, but I don't think you can get a regular model, which means normal humans won't ever be able to get their hands on it.
Neff's saying there is a 38 millimeter. I don't know if it's in production or not. I've seen them on a few listings, so I wasn't sure if it was. I mostly see the 42s.
Yeah, and I think the one that I really like is the ceramic one, which I don't think they make it smaller. But you're right. There are a couple smaller ones out there, but I wish they had just hit that 40 sweet spot, because 38 might be a little small. 42, 43 is a little too big. Just get it right there in the juicy center.
Okay. Ken, any thoughts on what you saw?
Yeah, Tony's. Yeah, again, love the Godzilla. I think. Yeah, I'm surprised. So I'm looking at the specs. I think it's probably trading around retail. I think, is that the retail price, Tony, or is that that
was the price for the only one that was on Chrono 24 at the time.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. I think the retail is just around that, so that's really holding well in terms of Grand Seiko. I'm surprised, but it's limited edition to 600 pieces. Yeah, I tried it on too. It was really sleek. It's a very, like Tim Masso said, it's a very, very Japanese style watch. A very, very unique watch. Nobody else does something like that. So great pick there. Let's go.
If you don't see that sunray pattern in life, though, I mean, it's kind of like the blue version I've got. In pictures it just looks dull and boring, but in real life, that red dial, it is so just mesmerizing. It's a great watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then let's talk about Patrick. I gotta talk about this Yachtmaster with you, Patrick. All right, so yeah, I think the matte bezel goes great with the titanium. This watch is definitely it's going to be a winner, but I also think I've heard it's just going to be so rare. Rolex is going to make so few of them. If anybody can get a 14K you gotta pounce on it if you get the chance. Yeah, I think it's definitely a step up from the white gold ones. Those are pretty overpriced. A lot of people are hesitant to buy one, but this one is definitely a winner.
Yeah, I almost laughed when I told my AD. I'm like, yeah, put me down for that titanium Yachtmaster. I'm like, like right.
If you can, yeah.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Know what I mean?
Yeah, and they probably all laughed in the back, and like the nerve of that idiot to even ask. But well, as I said, it's cool, but yeah, it'll probably never exist in my reality.
And for me, well, start says Patrick's loaded up. I was not, probably not surprising. I was not familiar with RGM. And then actually today I was looking at Tim Masso's Facebook page, and someone asked a question about what are underrated brands. And there were a few people in there who started replying saying RGM is a brand. They didn't name this watch, but.
Well, see, the thing about RGM, they're a little iffy because like this watch actually isn't an RGM. So this is a vintage Hamilton 923, which is pretty much called the mini masterpiece. And just because it's a gorgeous little watch. RGM does make some of their own movements though. And so, but I have to say the watches that they put their own movements in are hideously ugly. So as I said, I only like the conversion versions of the RGM, even though I think they make a tourbillon. They do make some pretty impressive watches, which is impressive being an American manufacturer. So they actually do make them. But as I said, they don't put them in a vehicle that makes me say, yes, please. But yeah, they're a small brand. I think I met, it's Roland G. Murphy. That's what the RGM is for. I met him up in New York. He's not a very nice guy. So, but his
they can't all be winners, I guess.
Yeah, his counterpart was very nice, but yes, he kind of was not.
Bad day.
I guess
so.
But
no.
But if you ever want to meet the nicest guy in town, Mike France from Christopher Ward, and Mike, another Mike from Zodiac, the super nicest guys ever. So as I said, some brands can be really cool. Some brands, they make you want to just run away. And so as I said, I don't think I'm ever going to buy an RGM, but I still kind of appreciate the watch.
Dennis, one other thing I noticed about my collection, I don't know why I'm commenting on my collection, but bring it if you can bring up. Yeah. So I just realized like if I were to like take these three watches and put them in a roll and show people on the street this game, like, okay, which one do you think is the most expensive to least expensive? I think most people would think the GP is the least expensive, and then the IWC being a gold one would be the most expensive. Just by just like asking like
I can see that
non-watch people on the street. It's but I got them in reverse order of what's least to most.
I think you're right. I guess it depends how close they look, because if they see Rolex on the dial, they might assume that's the most, followed by IWC because it's gold. Which I liked your picks over. I mean, I had a Portuguese. I had one of the 44 millimeters with a pocket watch size movement steel. The chronos, because they crop the numbers, I have to rule them out. But the regular 3-hand ones, I can get behind. As a design, it's one I liked a lot until I got rid of one to get a different dress watch. But same with my Grand Seiko, because I had an SBGA 283, one of the champagne dial ones. So I've seen Patrick's Grand Seiko before, and I've really liked the yellow second hand, and the blue dial has been really interesting. I didn't realize that was hand wind only though, so I don't know it's not the biggest deal, and at least with the 283, it was one of the few watches where I could actually really feel the rotor, not distractingly so, not like a Valjoux, whatever. I had an H31 movement in one of the Hamilton chronos, and I couldn't stand that rotor. It was so, like, it felt like the watch was a helicopter trying to fly off my wrist because of the unidirectional, the nature of it and how close it was. I don't know. It was weird. That watch was too big for me anyway. But I really like that one. I'm not surprised with Tony and the Godzilla, because he's talked about that one a lot. I'm not a Speedmaster fan. Outside of the Silver Snoopy, I basically don't like any of the Moonwatch style ones. I like more the racing chrono style they have, but I don't really think of Omega when I think of chronos. I think of Zenith or Breitling. So for me, it's just not a brand I look at when I think chronograph. But I like the tank. Classic. So overall, yeah, I like these picks, and I do like the bezel too on the Yachtmaster. That's actually my favorite part of the titanium Yachtmaster is this almost bead blasted matte insert for the bezel and then the shiny numerals. I just think it's an interesting contrast. But yeah, every time I see it, I initially think this is a Submariner, and then I'm like, oh wait, no, it's the Yachtmaster. They've just changed it up for the titanium version.
Yeah, I've gone because they have the display only models, and one time they actually had the real, like, you could buy it gold version with the blasted bezel, and I was like, oh, that bezel's so nice, but the watch is so not for me. But now that they've released this one, as I said, it's a little chunky, a little big. Like, I wish it was a 40. That would make it a lot easier. I've only got a 6.5-inch wrist, so 42 is kind of my max, and I know a 42 on my wrist is a big watch. I mean, I can get away with it, but it's my limit.
That was part of my problem with my Portuguese, is that with that lug to lug, it was like 52. And I was like, I have a 6 3/4 inch. And I was like, I'm going to say I can do it because I will it. But I ate a few extra Mike and Ike's. Well, I had that watch to kind of, beef up the wrist a little bit with some fat padding. But I was like, because when I had my Black Bay Bronze, it was a little over 51 lug to lug, and that worked, but it was real close. And that was a real thick watch because those Tudor's Black Bay Bronzes ran 2 millimeters bigger in case size originally till they had the 58 version than the regular Black Bays did, but I like the dial configuration so much more because they had the 369 Roman numerals, which I just thought looked really clean on that heritage style dial.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my other option was going to be a Bucherer, a gold Bucherer for a dress watch instead of the IWC. And Patrick, you were mentioning buying Cartier to get an AD allocation. That's the brand you have to buy for any type of Tourneaus and Bucherers is their own brand, which I think is sick. The way once Tourneau moved over to 80s, they're probably watching that, but they
watch all the time.
I think that's the sickest part. The most annoying part is every time I go to a Bucherer now, the first thing they try to sell me is a Bucherer, and god damn it, I mean, it just looks so bad when you're trying to just sell your brand like that when you have like 10 other brands in the same store and pushing people to buy that to get what they really want. I mean, who does that really? I mean, you're primarily a dealer first, right? You're primarily a dealer for the Bucherer is primarily an AD first, in Europe even. Right now, and definitely buying Tourneau in the United States, they're definitely a dealer first and a watchmaker second.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Bucherer, they just don't make anything that sings to me. I think Tim Masso had on one of his Saturday shows one Bucherer that I was like, oh, that's kind of neat. It had a green dial, and it was like a limited edition, and I think his number was like number 1, and I was like, oh, that's kind of fun. But still, as I said, yeah, I would be a little sad to be forced to buy something like that, because the bad news is I just kind of say what I think, and I would probably offend whoever I was talking to. I'd be like, no.
At this point, yeah, I said exactly that. I don't give a shit. The stuff that I get isn't from Bucherer anyway, so they don't have to try and sell me that.
Well, maybe they'll win you over someday. Yeah. Okay, let me go ahead and close out the poll. Wow. Okay. Patrick, Tony, and I all
a 3-way tie.
And Ken, no one liked you.
Wow. Ouch.
It's that GP. You should have gone AP. No one wants the homage.
You know what sucks is that I was actually trying to win these polls. Instead of I was trying to go with Alec, but I was actually trying to come in first. But oh well. Thanks guys.
Well, I mean, maybe while people are watching it over the weekend, in the comments, Give
They'll-
Ken some love, guys.
They'll
Give
come
Ken some
back.
love.
Come on. I mean, he did pick.
Really? It's a
He did
GP?
pick the
Okay.
most versatile GMT master too. He did. It goes with everything. It could have been your dress watch. You should have argued that.
See, GP was on the cusp of, because of like maybe some gray dealers watch channels. GP was on the cusp of being a hype watch.
Just have to get a really cool
yes.
GP.
There you
Oh,
go.
now that's
There you
pretty
go.
cool.
That's nice. Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
very cool.
I
It
like
almost
that one
looks
better
like
than
it's
mine.
porcelain.
Yeah, well, it's the white ceramic version,
Ah.
and this is the one that was blessed by Bamford. So,
Wow.
so the Bamford Watch Company, he made a really, because he does those mods on watches, and he made a small batch of these, and I was able to find one on Chrono. One morning while I was driving to work, it popped up on the internet. I'm like, ooh, and
Yeah,
It's
GP
that-
At a
is
stoplight, he wasn't actively driving, and
absolutely not.
now that they're independent, we might see some, something coming out of them that maybe
That's
feels
right.
a little more
That's right.
trailblazing than, it's not a company I'm all that familiar with, which I found out that, as Ken knows, the one time I decided to be a little critical about their Aston Martin watch, and
the
people are like, it
whole-
doesn't look at all like an AP, and I'm like, are you sure? It looks an awful lot like a Royal Oak to me. But apparently I was wrong. But yeah, that there was a time where, there was some, I call them backpack slinging watch dealers that decided that GP was going to be a thing, and that didn't work. If your audience is bots, that's not going to really fly. But as a kind of parallel, since we got through the game, how was the game? Did you guys like it?
Sure.
Yeah, it was tough.
It's just
It
like,
was tough.
whatever.
It was
I
tough.
won, so
putting this
I
stuff,
got what I needed out of it.
putting this together. Yeah, that was a great idea, Tony.
So I thought about doing a live stream tomorrow, but I normally do one a week at most because I get tired of talking. So Christopher Ward, everyone had, I didn't do a video on this because everyone had, like, we were just talking about GP and hype, and now it seems like Christopher Ward has a lot of hype going with it. They just dropped the 12. Tony, I don't know if you've seen any pictures of it yet. It just came out a couple days.
It has somehow appeared in my stuff that shows up on my phone anymore. Suddenly, it's just all over the place on my phone, and I'm just like, I've never looked at their watches before. Why are there 3 articles listed as something I might be interested in?
They pulled a pinball. They sent a bunch of people like early release copies of it, and then like lifted the embargo, and it all just dropped at the same time. So I've never owned a Christopher Ward. I know they got a lot of attention with the Bel Canto, which is probably the first watch I really looked at from them, just because it got so much attention. And I don't, it's one of those brands where it's kind of like I see a good value proposition out of them, but it almost seems disproportionate in terms of like how hard people stand for that company. And I'm confused by it. It's like, it's almost overhyped, but they look like good products. So I don't know how to feel about it. But what are people's thoughts of the 12? I mean, when I saw it at first, I thought I was looking at an Antarctique, and then I realized why I thought that, because they borrowed a little bit from that. They borrowed a bit from the Zenith Defy. I saw, I had more trouble seeing that because I'm not as familiar with the discontinued Defy. It was kind of looking a bit like, of course, the bracelet looked just like the PRX bracelet to me, though I hear it's finished better. So, I don't know. Patrick, have you looked a lot into that? What you haven't thought? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'm privy to some of the people who,
Oh, you're one of the secret people.
Hear about these things. I didn't hear about it in advance, but I was part of a show that filmed something before the release, so I pretty much knew about it, and had whatever embargo-ness on it. And exactly like what you said, to me it's an Antarctique, and I'm going to give them credit for where credit is due, because I've never owned a Christopher Ward, kind of like you said, Dennis. They haven't, besides the Bel Canto, made one that's unique enough that makes me want it, because my collecting strategy is there's got to be something that makes me say that watch is special. And I'm the jerk face who pretty much, says about every Rolex, they're not special. They're made in millions. They're everywhere. If you go on Chrono and you type in Submariner, 10,000 listings come up. They're not rare. They're a commodity, but they're not rare. Like I like something that, is weird. And when I look at this watch or most Christopher Ward watches, nothing about them says weird or rare, but they're still really good watches. And kind of like you were talking about in the $1,000 category, and I think I said it for a quick second, was, if I was going to spend $1,000 on a everything watch, I think Christopher Ward is a great brand because, it's good bang for the buck. And, in this watch, you get the dreams of a $20,000 watch for about $1,000. And, they're full of crap, in one of their little, pitches. They're like, we thought differently. That was one of their like little lines that came on their little sales pitch. And I mean, come on, whoever their advertising guy, they should have been kicked in the pants for that. I mean, you're just setting yourself up to get made fun of because, they did not think differently. Making 12 sides versus 6 versus 8 sides, you're still playing the polygon game. It is completely a homage to, the Royal Oak. And I don't have a problem with that, but just admit it. And, in their dial, which, yes, it has their integrated pattern in there, which is kind of cool, even though I don't like their symbol. I don't hate it. It's just, all I can say about Christopher Ward is it's a great watch for the money. And, well made. They make their own movements, not this one, but, they are a true watchmaker. And, I think they're a great brand.
Okay. Thanks. Ken, thoughts? Have you looked into this one?
I'm looking at it now. Yeah, it's pretty nice.
That's why I'm here to help you out.
Yeah.
Now, this is one of the titanium ones. So this was an aspect that it was an interesting decision, and maybe it was smart. I'm not sure yet. The fun dials are the titanium more expensive ones. They're the Fume ones. The purple, the purple. Well, that's a bold move, Cotton. We'll see if that one pays off in terms of longevity, because I know plenty of people that'll look at that and go, wow, that is awesome. And then you'll realize you can't wear it with anything unless you went to like K-State or something, which is a purple school here.
Or you rock a purple suit.
Yeah. My pimpin' days are long behind me, but anyway. And then the other ones, more Antarctique esque, conservative dials was maybe, so the steel, I get that paying a bit more for the titanium makes sense to me. I was confused by the decision to do 2 different movements and stick a Sellita SW300 and COSC certify it in the titaniums, but do an SW200 in the steel ones and then make them a millimeter thicker to accommodate them more inferior movement. But most people I don't think care all that much about movement. I mean, you do get a lot more power reserve out of an SW300. It's just, I don't know why they didn't do the dial colors and like all the dial colors in both. Like, what if you want a titanium, but you want something that like white, something like classic like that. You don't have that. Now, Christopher Ward, I know, is known for constantly coming out with new dial iterations for their watches.
Yeah, they've said similar to the Ingenieur, this is going to be a line. So there will be new colors and new combos in the future.
I do prefer the blue in the titanium to the blue in the steel with that shadowy ring around the
Fume. It's like a Fume effect.
Yeah, I like that a lot better. I think it looks real good.
It looks really good on the rubber bracelet too, because they put it on a black rubber or a dark blue rubber, and it contrasts it well. Even though the bracelet's really nice too.
Yeah, I actually really like that one.
Yeah, one of the things, and I don't. Because I had what was the original Tissot size 40, 41. It with the integrated links on the metal bracelet, it wore really big on me. And they came out with the 38 or 36, excuse me, or was it 34? I don't remember anymore. After I had bought mine, and I thought because the integrated links are add on essentially to the length of the case before it can bend, I would have done a lot better with the smaller version. So long story short, if I wanted something like this, I would worry that it's going to wear too big on me, but I'm not. I'd have to try it. The thing is that I can't really try it on unless I buy one. I know they have a fairly generous return policy, I think, as long as you don't take any links out. But I don't normally do that. I try and guess and then stay committed for a while. And then a year later, sell it when I'm upset with my choice. with my life choices. We just sell our way out of those.
You just need to get a bigger wrist, Dennis, and then you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, I could go back to the Mike and Ike strategy.
Well, if I could trade you an inch off my wrist to bring me down to a nice even 7.5, that would be.
Rubber ones. I heard some good things about Christopher Ward's rubber straps. What do you think of the pricing? Like, do you think that? I mean, it is, even with the steel one, it is several $100s more than a Tissot.
Yeah, it's always an interesting price range. That it's above the affordable. It's slightly above. It's in like it's competing with maybe long jeans in that price range, and maybe Zen or a couple others. But I think definitely a good value in that category.
Overall, I thought it looked good. I didn't get I wish there was I didn't get this with the bolt holes on the crown guard. I don't know what that's poached from, but I thought that was weird.
We say it kind of looks like the new Ingenieur. I don't know if it actually has bolts in it, but the crown guards are very like Ingenieur like, which is funny because obviously they were both being created at the same time.
But this one probably won't be criticized as much for its price point, Patrick.
No, but that's what I think is just silly about all these watches and their prices is you make a Rolex in titanium and put a $14,000 price point on it, which is $3,000 for a metal more than the Submariner. They did the exact same thing for the Ingenieur, but somehow Christopher Ward can give you a better movement and titanium for $300-$400 more. Like, when is the world going to realize that all of these things that we're being told, don't really cost that much? And
it's because Rolex and IWC, Patrick, do not put their logo as the pattern on the dial.
It's true.
So that's weird. That's just weird.
Yeah, no, my first impression when I saw that dial was like, I don't like it. And it grew on me a little bit more when I at least saw that it was their, flag shape. But it's still, to me, the dial is just a little too busy. And I think it looks better in the lighter colors because you don't see it as much. But, they don't make the fume in anything that isn't a pretty vivid color. So, best case scenario for me, I would like kind of the muted, whites and silver dial with the fume. And, maybe someday they'll make that.
Yeah, when I first saw it, I actually liked the pattern. And then when I saw it closer and I realized it was far more intricate than I realized, I was like, it feels a bit much to, I get the desire to kind of fill out the dial and not make it feel empty, but I think they didn't need to go quite this extreme. But they're really proud of their little Swiss cross. So.
Yeah, it's a strong dial, and I feel like also the markers are just a little oversized. I would like them to either be a little skinnier and maybe not as deep. So to me, it kind of looks like an angry fish mouth. And once I saw angry fish mouth, I can't unsee it.
Seiko Monster vibes, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
It is a bit aggressive, would be the.
I'm not going to be able to unsee that now. It's just like a little lamprey about to grab on.
Don't fall for it. It lures you in with its color match date window, and then
you heard it here first. Angry fish mouth.
Yes,
that's interesting. Yeah,
Christopher Ward prices plummet. Angry fish mouth.
Oh no! Oh no! We'll never hear the end of how we ruined their value. Or no, we made their value better. See, it's a win-win. Well, except for the company.
There's not a lot of companies that really have two different logos as distinct as different as Christopher Ward. I'm seeing. I can't think of any. Like, you have to have your Rolex crown. You have to have your VC, whatever that, the Iron Cross, whatever
Maltese Cross.
Maltese, yeah, Maltese Cross. Everything Omega. You have to have your your Greek symbol. Which one do they go with though? Do they go with the wording, the Christopher Ward wording, which I was always familiar with, or are they going with the that looks like a red cross?
Yeah, I thought I think the cross with the, well, what do we call it? Cross, that's like a Swiss cross and then a square.
And
I
then,
don't know what a square, a cross square.
I don't like it.
A square.
Yeah,
But it's
they call
everywhere.
they call it
I
their
think
flag
that's the
logo.
new right. That's like their new approach, though, right? Because didn't they get a ton of complaints that when they wrote Christopher Ward out, it was just like way too many words. Like
I get it, but who's going to look at that? Who's going to look at these symbols and know it's a Christopher? No, understand? Okay, this is a Christopher Ward. I mean, whereas
when the world falls in love with the brand, we will all know it will be the
Okay.
same as the coronet. It will be
okay.
It will the cross square will clearly mean that's like special Greek letters that translate into CW. I don't know why they picked those symbols, but I'm not like I've never really followed the company. I remember reading online back when people talk about what do you think about Christopher Ward, and people always go, it's a great value, and then always be people weighing in going, that logo sucks. I hate their logo, and it was like, I didn't really think much about that at the time. And then I saw so many people, getting mad. Like, why does Tudor have 4 lines of text on the Pelagos? It ruins the Pelagos. You can't have 4 lines of text below the central seconds hand. It's too much. And it's like, I didn't really, I don't know. I kind of get it now as I got, fell into the rabbit hole more. But at the time, I always thought that was maybe a little nitpicky, but yeah, I get it too. Like I love the new like reduced simplified P of the Parmigiani logo, and I don't like how they did their old dials. When I look at all the Tondas that aren't like modern, I look at the dials and I go, their logo's dumb. And then I look at the new ones, I'm like, their logo's sleek and sexy now. They did it right. I really like those new Tondas. Too bad they're expensive. Right? Christopher Ward needs to knock off a Tonda.
But yeah, it's a tough game. The name brand and the symbol. I mean, I had a hard time with a recent watch that I bought, which is a Formex, because that name is just. I mean, it's not horrible, but it's just not a good name. And so you hear it enough times, and I guess maybe it gets beaten into you that it's okay. But
no, I don't think so.
But initially, I was like, oh. And the other one that kills me, even though they make a watch that I love, is Zelos. They make a tantalum diver, and for the price point of a tantalum watch, but it's got a big Zorro Z on the dial for Zelos, and like it hurts my soul. And you want to love it, but you can't. But I will give Formex credit; their symbol is good.
Yeah, no, I hadn't really looked at their symbol. I don't get it because it looks like it's an M and a W meeting, which seems to have nothing to do with Formex, but it does look cool. When I hear the name, I do think that it's a bug spray company.
Yeah.
Like Terminex and Formex have teamed up to rid us of all our termite problems. It'd be great, which is good because I don't know if they have any wood dials, but you got to keep those safe from them termites.
Yeah, no, I know. So it's just, as you said, in like Parmigiani Fleurier, I mean, you're right. You don't want to read all that on there. And I mean,
the Fleurier, we struggle enough with the French here. We're trying to remember how Guilloche and.
But as I said, it's weird how we've been beaten down because Patek Philippe is okay and Audemars Piguet is okay. And, as I said, really, if Audemars Piguet came out right now, I'd be like, no, that's a horrible name. But, we eat it up now that we just call it AP.
Yeah, but it's the keeping it short and then just putting the little AP on the dial, though. I think Patek still often will print their full name. Of course, when you're looking like at their Calatrava, there ain't anything else on the dial. So I guess that's what you got to look at is just the name. Let's simplify, their quasi Bajas, designs there.
Yeah. So as I said, as we fall down the rabbit hole, we maybe become a little bit more forgiving for some things that we might not forgive otherwise.
Yes, and more judgmental on things that normally we never would have cared about. Like, like I never would have thought when I first got interested in collecting watches that I would be, reading up on the debate on faux rivets on a Tudor bracelet. But there I was. I'd never thought about fake rivets one way or another. I didn't know they were a thing. And I learned they are a thing and people hate them. But Tudor loves to keep doing them. So I don't know who's right there.
Although on the new releases, I have to say I can't hate on the new releases as I've seen them in person, and the 54, when you hold it in your hand, it feels small, but on a small wristed guy like me, when you try it on, it really fits well on the wrist, and it's light, and that size, the thinness of the case, along with the bracelet being toned down, makes the rivets a lot less noticeable. It doesn't bother me as much on the new versions. I think they have a winner there in the 54. The 80s guys told me they think that this is just a start of that 54K size. They're going to come out with newer versions that are better, maybe even colorful versions for that maybe may appeal to women as well. And also the 41. Another thing is like it's not just the dial. It's not just the dial that's and the case that's a little bit slimmer, even slimmer than this. The ETA. It's also the bracelet. Like I always like this. I always like the size of this bracelet. It's like a 22 millimeter bracelet, great for maybe Tony. But if I was watching this and if I put this on my wrist on film, it's a really wide bracelet. I think they slim down the bracelet and it tapers a lot. Even like a Rolex bracelet now, so that's another improvement that'll make it a hard choice for existing Tudor owners to upgrade or not.
Yeah, that's probably
T-fit clasp. That T-fit clasp is
T-fit clasp. Sure, yeah.
Did you get to Ken? Did you get to see the Jubilee version?
No, they only had the Oyster version, which is slimmed down and improved. But yeah, Jubilee,
okay.
Yeah,
I've heard good things about the T-fit, but I was curious because I actually thought the Jubilee looked really good on that watch. So
yeah, it's interesting because like I tried putting like I have a Jubilee, like one of those aftermarket Jubilees. It looks great on the GM. It looks great on the GMT. All right, Pepsi. Sorry, Tony. Okay, but all right, but it looks great on the GMT. But I put the Jubilee on the blue diver. It just didn't feel right. It didn't appeal to me. Maybe when Tudor does it, it'll look better. But I think the Jubilee goes well with the red burgundy. That's why they came out with the Jubilee on this model first. The red burgundy. It looks better on that. We'll see if it looks okay on the blue one. Maybe I'm just not used to it when I put it on.
Yeah, one of the things I kind of wish after, especially after having, though I knew about it ahead of time, was with the Omega Seamasters is they don't taper the bracelet. And I find that very odd given the popularity of bracelet tapers at this point. And I've wondered if they're not going to revamp the watch per se, that maybe in the, because the last did them in 2018, maybe they'll finally come out with a tapered bracelet because it makes this very, very chunky. And I wore this for a while on a NATO and on a silicon instead. I switched this over in the winter. I'll probably switch it back because quite frankly, this gets really, and Omega makes a thick watch as it is ever since they went coaxial. It just seems like they just add more millimeters to the thickness of everything they've got, which is another judgment I have on them. Like maybe make it not quite so wears pretty well, but they're kind of like thicker than everyone else in the competition.
Even the new Tudor. The new Tudor smooth bezel black bays, they're a lot thicker than before too. Like the 39, the 41s. Though they're nicer dials, but they're a lot thicker than because using the in-house ones. But I think it's overall. Just looking at those 40, 54 and the new diver ones, it's made Tudor actually a pretty underrated release this year.
All right. Well, we reached 90 minutes, which was my initial kind of quote on this. I didn't know how fast I've never done this style of game before. When we do normally, Patrick, when we do a game, we've done this or that, where I'll put two watches side by side at about the same price value, and people will argue over which one they think is better, and we let the audience vote on which one they think is better out of those. And that can be, sometimes people get really passionate about like why one watch sucks, and you just got to dive all the way in. So it's usually a lot more aggressive. Always friendly, but more aggressive in terms of time consumption, at least. So
that's true. Well, speaking of passion, I have one question. Oh. What is the passion that I've heard alluded to many times about Tony and a Pepsi bezel?
Oh, yes, this was set up, and now we get to the culmination of all of these words. Now,
it was hinted at like 2 or 3 times this episode, and I am unaware of Tony's hatred. So
yes, hard takes. It's interesting. Everyone's got a hard take of something in this hobby, where like everyone loves something, and then someone just has to piss all over it. And this is Tony's.
That's
so
mine.
Tony, go ahead, explain it.
I hate the Pepsi bezel. I don't like the GMT period. or the GMT at all. But the Pepsi bezel just is worse. And yes, I see it's definitely a thing that you have on your wrist right now. I'm very happy for you.
So what is it about it? Is it the
love it.
colors or
Iconic, man.
I
you don't like that it's loved?
That's what it is. I don't like that it's loved. No, it's not that. It's just for some reason the colors, because the split colors with some of the other color styles, I'm fine with. But it's specifically the red, blue Pepsi bezel style. There's something about it. It's just almost like nails on a chalkboard for me, but to my eyes. I just don't like how it looks.
Is Coke okay, black and red? Because they're very similar.
The black and red is okay. It's not great. I prefer I like single color.
Mhm.
I prefer the just black or just I prefer just a single color.
Well, Tony, I got great news for you. I don't think I'm as adamant about the decision as you, but I'm kind of on board with you. Pepsi is my least favorite GMT.
Yeah.
Except for the meteorite dial, because it's meteorite. But but besides that, you're right. It's my least favorite. I don't think I hate it like it sounds like you do. It's not nails on the chalkboard, but definitely I'm more of a Coke. I'm more of a root beer. Even though I guess I have to take that back. I hate the new one the most. The one that's like the gray and black, like
the Guinness. Come on, man, the Guinness. Yeah,
they just made it all black.
The Guinness.
Yeah, the Guinness.
So that one.
See that one's interesting. I mean, that one's like hot, probably because it's off the gate. Everyone loves it, but I don't see anything that sets it apart from the white gold and the Pepsi and the root beer, red gold root beer. I think all three will probably fall to around the same price range eventually in time once they start coming out with this stuff in the market.
Ken, do you have any like weird hates that most people love about watches that you're just like, no?
Most people love about watches, nah.
Or
Well,
at least find acceptable.
I'm a hype guy, so I follow a lot of hype, unfortunately.
So you're just everything Instagram loves. You're just like, yep.
Try to think of one, No.
Integrate bracelets. You hate them?
No, they're great. They're great. I mean, that's
Yeah,
what brought back the whole industry is.
I'm digging. That would make it even juicier of your hate. Be like, no, like, do you hate mechanical? Like,
well, I want to say I don't like dress watches either, but it seems a lot of people agree with me.
No one likes dress watches. I hear they're coming back, but I haven't seen it yet.
Because we're all working from home or just doing like house projects. We don't have the chance to wear dress watches like we did before. I mean though the jersey on Oyster Flex Daytonas. I mean right now they're hot. Like I don't know if they're going to be hot in like 5 to 10 years. It's really hard to say. And I might have a decision to make maybe this year. That my AD's probably jerking my string, but he asked me yesterday, do I prefer the previous Oyster Flexes or the previous stainless steels, and I obviously I'll take whatever the hell I can get, whatever I'm eligible to get, but I think the stainless ones are definitely the safer bet over the Oyster Flexes PMs.
So Patrick, do you have any passionate?
I have one very passionate dislike. And my very passionate dislike is, sorry, Ken, hype beasts. So,
yeah.
So the idea though is, and like I don't know, I'll tell you a quick story. I wanted to be two things when I grew up. I wanted to be a dentist until my dentist told me that I shouldn't be a dentist. I don't know why I listened to him, but I did. So I never went into dentistry. Then I wanted to be a judge, but I found out that I had to be a lawyer before I was a judge. And I said, to hell with that. So then I found myself in the position I'm in. But I've always taken great pride in thinking, at least, that I am relatively unbiased. Doesn't mean that I'm perfect. It just means I look at you like what you are. And I don't care what other people think. if it's ugly, I'm going to say it's ugly. If it's not, I'm going to say it's not. And that's kind of my pet peeve of the watch industry, because I've been collecting watches for 20 years. And, you know, when a watch was a garbage pail 10 years ago, guess what? It's still a garbage pail now. It's just that somehow someone has influenced, kind of like Dennis, you were talking about earlier, a certain YouTube celebrity who made everyone go out and buy, you know, ceramic GP skeletons, and you know, bumped up the price 20, 30 grand. And then once everyone was onto him, they toileted. Like, they're fine watches, but they weren't popular. People bought popular. And, you know, I said, I think the Daytona is an ugly, stupid watch. I don't like it. I think the Moon watch is pretty much an ugly, stupid watch. I don't like it. And I know that makes a lot of people upset at me, but you know, it's my opinion. I think calling
You're
a
right
watch
on the Daytona.
Yeah, I think calling a 38 millimeter watch a 40 millimeter watch, which is what the Daytona is, with love to it being the Cosmograph, even though it failed going to space, and then also having the word Daytona written on a watch that has the word Cosmograph on it for a racetrack here in sunny Florida. It's the stupidest combination of watch ever. And it's got a screw down pushers, which everybody hates. So take them off. And like, the watch makes zero sense, but everybody loves it. And I just wish people would look in the mirror and just be like, why do I love it? And, you know, I think a lot of people would realize they don't really love it. They just love that everyone else loves it. And so if I had one pet peeve is, you know, buy what you love and only because you love it. And I try to do that with my watches, which is why I've got some pretty ugly watches to most people, because I don't care what they think. And I like them because they're unique, they're weird, and that's my collecting strategy. So I'm the jerk face who walks into my AD and he's like, do you want a Cartier? And I'm like, ugh, no. And, you know, they say something about a Daytona and I'm like, I wouldn't even take one if you offered it to me. I mean, that's a lie. I probably would.
Yeah. No.
Because,
See, there you go. There you go. Now you're thinking with your head. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I said I'm not an idiot, but I would never wear it. Like, I would not own it for a minute. Like that.
It would go on resale real fast.
Yeah, I mean, I would hold on to it for a year because that might get me in trouble if I sold it immediately. So, you know, I would at least do whatever I had to do to not like burn bridges. But as I said, you know, no part of me wants that watch, and I wouldn't wear it because I don't like it. And you know, I said that.
Yeah. You know. Look, if all things were equal, right? All right. Yeah. You look at Rolex and hype stuff, totally different way than everything else. Because then you'll see, you know, the truth is, yeah, they're all built very similarly. Maybe some of the hype worse than others, but I mean, unfortunately, the reality is like most of watches is related to marketing. You know,
absolutely. I mean, my wife goes to the mall and she buys, you know, a purse that's made out of the same leather that your shoes are made out of. But for some odd reason, her purse costs thousands of dollars and my shoes cost $20. So, you know, we know that there's a markup just for made up nonsense. But as long as we're willing to pay it, so be it. And that's it. And I will give Rolex credit. My Rolex is timed wonderfully. Like, I think it loses about a second a month. So, I mean, I don't know what magic they do, but I mean, it's a great watch. It just, you know, no part of me lies and says, oh my God, it's this and it's worth this. You know, it's just a watch. And, you know, I said that might hurt watch people's opinions, but guess what? I'm a watch person.
Yeah, it's interesting to me, and the Rolex question in particular is interesting because I'm of two minds of it, because I run into both, and I'm sure all of you have in the hobby in particular, because you know it's the 800-pound gorilla. So you see it, you get both things. You get the people that are like, you know, it's Rolex, it's incredible, it's what a lot of people strive for. I've met and seen a lot of people online, their entire collections are Rolex, and you know, and my own gut reaction when I see someone has an entire collection of Rolexes, you're playing it at best. You're playing it safe because you don't want to lose value in the hobby, and that's why you've done it. Which isn't a stupid reason to do something, but it also makes you wonder, well, how many oyster cases do you really need before you feel? And I have the same reaction to people who buy all of the Seiko turtles. I don't get it. Like, I love the Seiko turtle. I would never want 30 of them. They're too samey, but that's just how, for me. But, you know, on the flip side, I also know people that it's like, it's Rolex, and so I hate it because it's Rolex. And they get mad at the game that the ADs play, and they blame Rolex for it. And they get mad that the public plays the game and that they can't get it. And then they get pissy. And then they, you know, that's where you get a lot of the whole, well, Rolex is just, it's super industrial. It's cold. And it's like, they make a really good, my most comfortable watches I've had are Rolexes, and they know what they're doing. It's not a bad watch. So, you know, it kind of gets funny to me, just because it's sort of like you meet a lot of that. And you find a lot of people are actually pretty balanced on it too. Well, kind of like,
and as you just said, Dennis, it's the antithesis to the hype beast. It's the I hate the hype beast. And you know, if someone loves the Rolex just because it's Rolex, and someone hates the Rolex just because it's a Rolex, and you know, to me, the reality is just judge it on its merit, and you know, be true to it. I mean, is it worth 10 grand? Probably not, but will you pay it?
You know, when I look at the secondhand pricing, I'm like, yeah, they all are. So the nice thing is I'm willing to gamble on pretty much any Rolex if I could have it at retail, because I'd be like, you know what? I don't know. Because like I'd rather have a Zenith Chronomaster Sport than a Daytona, like visually, look wise. If I got offered a Daytona, you know what? I'd definitely try and see if I would love that Daytona, because I'd probably wear it. And then see if I, you know, do I like it? Because, you know, some things I thought I would like and I didn't. And then others are like, you know, gotta watch, or thought, you know, that's a pretty good deal. Let's try it.
Yeah.
It's easier when it's cheaper watches. But when you know you're not going to lose money, it's really, really comfortable.
Well, let's hold off on that thought as well. Especially these days, if you think you're going to hold it and flip it, you'd be surprised of even Rolex, what these dealers are paying you guys. I think a friend of mine, he had like a 2023 white gold Oyster Flex, and the dealer basically offered him retail for it, which you know, I thought was a ridiculous low ball. But that may be due to it being like a white gold being a little bit soft in the market these days. But you know, that's like that. I mean, that was a pretty hot Daytona.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. But you know, that's true with any dealer arrangement. So that's where, like in my instance, I've traded a number of my watches. I've also sold a number of them on Chrono 24 because I wanted to pocket more of the money, and I don't have a good trade deal in mind. I had a Ming Messina collab. I was on their mailing list from whenever, and when the system crashed twice, they sold me one, and I loved the look of that watch, but the crown cut into my hand and I had to get rid of it, and I couldn't sell that thing. And I ended up trading it for what I had it listed for on Chrono, because I just couldn't move it, because there were 3 others on there that weren't worn because people were trying to flip them. And I had worn I had to say, I've worn this for about a year. The strap looks pretty good. Ignore the blood all over the crown. From every time I reached into my pocket, it cut into my hand. Ming, figure it out. But you know, it's just, merciless. So yeah, it's just but you know, if you get at retail, you know, it's sort of like and you know, I remember the one I have an Explorer to a 16570 that I bought used back when no one wanted that watch, and that was before I was into watches. And it was like, you know, I had some success in my job, and I was like, I want a Rolex because it's Rolex, and that's all I knew was a good watch brand. And you know, and then I had a little 34 millimeter OP, and it was just a little small for me, but it was super comfortable. I loved that bracelet. That was a more modern watch. It was the OP years before. It was like the white grape and the red grape and all that. One of the green ones, and the generation before the current Stella dials. And it was like I loved wearing that watch. It was really comfortable, but the price had gone up so much. I was like, I think I swapped that one for that Santos Patrick hates. So. Santos 100 and then I got rid of that. But anyway, that's, you know, you live and learn. So it's interesting. But and I've already said my thing is, yeah, I'd still maybe someday I'll be able to pull a trigger on watches that cut into their hour markers with subdials and stuff. It just, I don't know. It just something about it breaks up the conservative aesthetic I want on a dial. Like if you cut into like the minute track, I'm okay with it. like Zenith doing in the 4:30 date window into the tachyometer or the minute track or whatever. I'm okay with it. But you cut into like a Roman or an Arabic numeral hour marker, like Breguet does on their B06 classic lines, like the pistachio watch. I'm just like, I love everything about that watch except what you did. You've done wrong, Breitling, and I can't buy it. I can't buy it. It's just, every time I look at it, I'm like, why'd you cut into the numbers? Why didn't you just take the numbers off? Why'd you do this to me?
What about this? Does that consider cutting into? Because see that power reserve is cutting into a small baton. So
with batons, no. No.
Okay.
No.
So baton's a little bit better. A little bit better.
Yeah. So like this Omega has the little bit shorter loom pip at the 6 because of the date window, or the Christopher Ward we were looking at, the new 12 with the shorter. But no, batons are okay. It's wronging the number. You can't wrong the number.
Can't wrong the number.
You might be the first and only person I've ever heard that has this pet peeve.
I would think that I'm weird, but and I am, but not because of this. But I have seen other people online when they talk about pet peeves and watches. At least there are a number of people that at least bring up the subdials cutting into numbers. So I am not alone, at least in that regard. And maybe it's more of a subdial thing than anything else, but I mean, there are Longas, which I love Longa as a brand with a lot of their designs. They do that on like half their models. I'm just like, nope, which is okay because they're too expensive anyways. It spares me. Like, I'm sorry, Odysseus, you and I, we can never be together.
We can never be together.
That's just how it is.
That's what. That's the only reason. It's not the cost.
You know what?
Just because
an Odysseus would just be a few trades away, or more likely, if you want to buy it from Longa. Now, at least hats off to Longa. They're transparent about it. You go to them, you say you want an Odysseus, they're going to come in and go, all right, you're going to buy this number of Saxonias and Longa ones, and then we'll talk.
The funny thing, though, is if you remember when the Odysseus first came out, for a good 2 weeks, it was very unpopular. I wonder if there was some lucky fool who just walked in like, I'll take one. And, a month later, it was just like.
Do you know what made it shift? Because I have no idea. Like what
I think just a low production of
just how you
watch. Yeah.
Does anyone here? Because I'm not super strong on Rolex history. Does anyone here know why like in the El Primero era of the movement wise that the Daytona finally took off? Because I know when that model first came out, it sat too, and then
I don't really know what all of a sudden,
but it became hot. I think it's because it says the word Daytona and Cosmograph.
Yeah,
I think that's it. I think it's the idea of land and space together.
Yeah, it's almost as bad as the Air King, which is now playing homage to a speed car that actually never won the speed record.
Ever since the Air King went with that Type B-esque dial design, I've been unable to love it. I like the old ones, the old little 34 millimeters, but. Yeah. And the new one's better. It's more balanced, but I still look at that. I'm just like, even if I was offered one at retail, I don't know that I could take that.
No, you don't. You don't take that. No.
Okay, thanks, Ken. I needed the research because I'm like, well, there's a Rolex, but I'm just like,
not.
It's
today,
like
that means that it must not flip well, so it must be a low performer.
Am I the only? While we're doing
what flips well, there's not a lot that actually flips well today. I mean, a lot of these dealers are just so greedy on their buy prices.
So, in terms of like weird assumptions, am I the only one? I probably am. Am I the only one when I hear someone when they talk about Rolex and like, I don't really like Rolex, except I like the Milgauss Z Blue, that you think that they're just like a hipster? Because I look at the Milgauss Z Blue and I don't like it very much either. I like it way better than the Air King. Like, it's not an ugly watch, but any of the Milgausses, maybe it's the little lightning bolt. I'm like, why are you trying to be cool?
I like the Milgauss.
I know you do. That's part of the reason I'm pointing this out.
I know. I like the Milgauss.
I like it.
I remember when I picked when I picked that Milgauss, I picked the black dial Milgauss, which was apparently wrong.
Oh, no,
I like the
live audience at the time told him he was wrong.
That's not the correct dial, Tony. Yeah,
that's true.
Apparently, I was wrong when I picked the one I like.
The thing about the Milgauss that actually annoys me the most is the green sapphire.
Oh,
It just
I like
because it
grapefruit
reminds me
pie.
of a Coke. Like I'm looking through the bottom of a Coke bottle, and I'm like, why are you obfuscating the color of your dial behind this glass? I don't get it. I just don't get it aesthetically. It's a weird choice from a company that doesn't have fun. I don't understand why they're doing it. And hence the
Darn
same
them
thing with
for
the
having
same
fun.
thing with the emoji watch. We don't really think that they
I-
had fun, right? That was a randomizer that made that.
That was so weird.
I heard a theory after we talked. We had the episode where we did that. I think we did that a lot. Yeah, we did that Watches and Wonders recap with Jason from Design Atelier was on, and we talked a bit about that watch. And after that episode aired, I read someone who had floated the theory, which I think is fairly weird, but I'll share it. Was Rolex did that because they wanted to have better legal argument against aftermarket dial makers who have claimed in court cases that their dials are so different from what Rolex does that they should be allowed to do what they do because Rolex doesn't do fun dials. So no one in their right mind would ever confuse their aftermarket dial with being a true Rolex dial. And so Rolex is like, hold my glass of Avion water. They don't do beer. And then they do this weird watch, a day date with no day and no date.
Could be.
I thought it was a fascinating theory. I only read it. It's probably on Reddit, so let's not put too much stock in it. But I thought it was an interesting theory.
I mean,
Weird, but
it's a theory. Yeah.
That's probably the true answer. It's a theory. It's a hypothesis.
I just think it looked terrible. That and the ball pit.
Oh, the Dippin' Dots watch. I like the Dippin' Dots one more. It at least makes me hungry. So there's that.
Yeah,
I could tell the time with it.
We all know when it came to the cuteness at Watches and Wonders, Kermit won the cuteness. I mean, that was just
Kermit.
a given.
On the 1908, I did a video comparing that to Calatrava and Patrimony and the Saxonia, and reactions were really mixed. A lot of people liked the 1908 design more than some of those. Actually, again, I'm not surprised it was mixed. Everyone has their own sort of Calatrava style to them, and so it was like some people preferred the Saxonia and some people like the Patrimony, and it was just all over the board. But a lot of people don't think it will be particularly like a big mover. Other than it being thinner than a Cellini, I don't really see what it brings to the table. So, but I think it's an attractive watch.
Something
It is an
to force you
attractive
to buy to get your titanium Yachtmaster.
And those were theories we heard, but then I think all that ends up happening is did all Rolex do then is piss people off that they didn't just like make more Oyster Perpetuals for you to buy to get your titanium Yachtmaster, because at least then you would have a model that people wanted to wear.
Yeah.
Because again, no one likes dress watches because no one goes anywhere that uses them anymore. So, except me apparently, but not today. All right. Well, I had a lot of fun. So thanks guys for coming on. Plugs, Patrick, you may plug away.
I'm Pocket Watch Time. I make a new video every Saturday, and I'm going to be up for another couple hours editing and putting mine up in the sky tonight. So all Dennis's fault. So
it is.
Make sure to leave lots of comments on the video saying how angry you are at Dennis, and of course give Ken some love because he didn't win enough in the poll. So tell Ken that he did great. And tell
Ken that Patrick is wrong and the Daytona is a nice watch.
Yeah, and tell Tony that he's completely right, that the Godzilla is amazing and he should buy it.
If I had that money.
Yeah. And I do have a link to Pocket Watch Time in the description so people can just hop right over it.
Yeah, you guys ever think of downsizing and just like trading your pinball machines for some watches? Or no, you just want to keep your pinball machines?
Tony only has one pinball machine. So
I've got one and it's not worth anything. So
to be fair, pinball kind of went through a thing like watches did. You might be able to, as nice of shape as that is, and that is a vintage machine.
It is, but it's also my grail. That's why I would hate to give up something that is as rare as it is, because it's old and wasn't super popular. Okay. But I really love it, and it was on my short list.
I have 7 games. I hadn't really thought about, because that's as much as I can fit in my game room. I'm probably going to sell one here in a bit because I've got a free project that'll be coming in. But it won't command I won't get 2,000 out of the game I'm going to sell. My watch collection is actually worth more than my pinball collection already. So I know I hadn't really thought about that. But getting a Godzilla, see, if I loved it as much as Tony, it'd make extra sense because I have the Godzilla pinball machine. So then I could put the little watch on it, and then I basically more than double the value of the pin. So
yeah, because the pin is like $9,000. So
yeah, that's those premium models, and it's like the baseline models nowadays run about $7,000 new for anyone who was curious. So, just some of these watches, you'd have to sell 2 or 3 if you want to start getting into like Vacheron territory. Well, new, you'd need, because if you're thinking $20,000 to $30,000 watch, that's probably 5 to 7 pinball machines depending on the era. So I'd be like, I'd sell everything I could get, like a Calatrava. Because I'd say I'd probably baseline dollar amount. My pinball collection is probably around 30,000 roughly.
Okay.
So not enough.
Get an overseas.
And it's not enough. It's not enough.
You could get an overseas.
Overseas is like my least favorite. I don't know, because I don't. It's just, it looks like so many other sports watches to me. The AP Royal Oak grew on me. I guess if I was going to get one of the hype ones, it would probably be that. I've never liked the Nautilus shape at all, so I'd never be into it. But Royal Oak, I've appreciated over time.
Yeah, my casual style. I mean, I've been waiting for Royal Oak for like 3 years. Who knows if it ever happened? But my casual style has like gotten me into offshores lately. But I'm looking at mostly like these older offshores. I just don't understand why. What's so great about these newer offshores? They're like 30 to 40K and up at retail to buy them as well. Where I'm looking at these older offshores. Right, they look just as good, smaller size for me, and then they're like half the price, really.
I was going to say, can you rock a new one? I tried. It's so
it's huge. It's ginormous. Yeah, probably the old ones are probably big too for me, but I just
Vacheron's watches run really big. I've noticed. It's probably why, Tony, they work for you so well, because your wrist size is larger.
Yeah,
but, I mean, like the Patrimony, that's the number one critique on that comparison to the 1908 was Patrimony's huge. And it's like, because the model I had was like a 42 millimeter dress watch. You're like getting into Portuguese territory there. Actually, you are in Portuguese territory, but not but well above Portuguese price. Ken, anything you want to plug? When's your new YouTube channel starting?
I think I'm just gonna stick with the streaming, support you guys. So I'm a proud member of Dennis's 99-cent club. All right.
Watches with Dennis Club I set that up. It's a whole 99 cents a month. You get emojis or whatever they're called. Yeah, emojis.
Well worth it. Maybe I'm the only member, but he invites me.
They're multiple.
Oh, okay.
You're the only vocal one.
I'm the only vocal one. All right, that's great. So happy to plug Dennis's 99-cent club, and also
I should rename it to that.
Happy the 99-cent club. Yeah.
I'm 1 cent less than Dollar Shave Club. Join me.
It's well worth it, and I'll plug the community again since Patrick already gave him a heads up. And
that's funny because I know I made a Patreon like 2 months ago, and I have one member, and he like emailed me some questions like, I'm sorry to bug you, and I'm like, what are you talking about? You're my only Patreon. Like, you're like,
that's what it's for. You get to, Tony and I do Patreon for our pinball podcast, and like we have more members of that because we're far more popular on pinball than we are in watches. And I'll do like polls of them to help decide or answer questions on top, because again, that's all pre-recorded. So it'll be like, hey, which of these 6 pinball machines that came out in March you guys think are best? We'll pull the Patreons and we'll use that as show fodder too. So it helps because we do the show every other week. Speaking of shows and plugs, Tony, what do we do every other week?
Every other week, which will be this weekend, we'll be recording our newest episode for the Eclectic Gamers podcast, talking about, I don't know, something in pinball. I'm not sure what's going on in pinball right now.
There have been some new cringy trailers that have come out from some upstarts, so we'll have some stuff to do. Don't worry.
And we get to talk about how the UK has decided Microsoft can just be screwed worldwide by blocking the merger. So.
Exciting topics, and I have a link to that podcast website in the show notes so people can go if they want to subscribe to it. All right, we're done. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me. Thank you, those of you who were able to catch it live. Those of you who watched the recording, I hope you found it entertaining. And if not the game, at the very least, all of us are saying all of the things that you love about watches that we hate. But until next time, I'm Dennis. Take care, everybody.
Good night, everybody.